Okay, welcome once again, everyone. My name is Chris Wren. I'm the head of XDI events at EA. I'm also the chair of the XDS advisory committee. And I see other members of the committee joining us today, which is fantastic. Thank you for that. So welcome everyone to this very important session today. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day, especially to those overseas who've got up very early, or in some cases have stayed up very late. Thanks to you all. The panel today will discuss the Great Resignation, how the way we work has changed due to the global pandemic, and how companies can balance between short-term crises response and mid to long-term decisions. Moderated by Guillaume Monnier, COO of Glass Egg Media. Our panelists will also talk about ways on how we can change moving forward. So thank you again for joining today. I am looking forward to seeing you all at our homecoming XDS event on September 7 to 9 in Vancouver. Hopefully many of you can make that. Just a quick housekeeping note. We would very much like to engage with the audience today. So if you have any questions or comments for the panel, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom to type those in. We are going to try our best to get to all of those questions in the last 15 minutes of the session. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to our esteemed moderator for today, Guillaume, and thank you to our panelists. Please take it away.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, good morning, good day, everyone. Welcome to this Great Resignation panel. So I'm very happy to be moderating this panel today. We're going to be tackling the very important topic of the Great Resignation and how the global economy trend have led employees to quit en masse across the industry, leaving a lot of open positions, but also unsatisfied employees. We will try to identify the reasons of that and see how companies can adjust in order to counter it. Today with me, I have the honor to be joined by four fantastic panelists. Cassie, if you can say a few words to introduce yourself, please.
Hey, my name is Cassie O'Connor. I'm currently located in the other Vancouver, Washington, and I am at Glue EA, and I've been there for 13 years now, and I'm also on the XDS committee.
Thank you. Kay, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kay Arutunian. I'm one of the original founders of Counterpunch Studios, and as of 2020, we're glad to be Counterpunch, a virtuous studio. I'm currently acting as the general manager here at Counterpunch, a virtuous studio.
Erica, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erica from Manifesto Games. We are an outsourcing studio based in Brazil. So I'm talking from Recife, Brazil. And I've been in the company for almost 10 years now, and I work as an international business developer.
And Phil, please.
Hey, everybody, I'm Phil Knowles, and I'm at Amazon Games. I've been here for a couple of years now. I work in the publishing group and work with a bunch of our teams, helping them set up their outsourcing efforts. I'm a senior outsource program manager. And happy to be here.
Thank you very much, everyone. So jumping right into the topic, I'd like to start by asking you guys if you have witnessed at your company any issue related to the Great Resignation, and if you have noticed more departures than usual, and most importantly, why? Were there any common reasons given by your employees as they left the company? And to answer that, if Kay would do us the honor to start, please.
Sure. I actually attended a panel at DICE, as I mentioned before, and we discussed this and called it more of a great reshuffle in the video game industry, because we're not seeing artists and other members of the industry leave the industry per se, but we are seeing them move around at quite a rapid pace compared to before. And I think a reason for that is not being tied geographically to where you have to work, would be a key reason. So artists and other personnel are able to work for companies that they don't live close to at a comfortable possibility now with the ability to work remotely, and also rate. There is an inflation for artists specifically, and there seems to be a lot of moving around for rate.
Great, thank you. Erica, is it similar on your side, or have you noticed a different pattern?
No, I think our view is pretty similar to Kay. Like, as far as we know, the people that left our studio during those times are still in the game industry. We just feel like because there was a lot of free time with the quarantine and being home a lot of time, it gave time to people to rethink or think well their careers. And most people just wanted to work in different projects or in some cases different platforms, and they tried to relocate themselves aligned with these wishes, but not necessarily because they wanted to leave the game industry.
I see. Thank you. And do you, with this trend of people leaving a lot, have you had to adjust your current benefits in order to retain talents? Have the reasons of staying of current employees have changed? Has it changed over the years? Is it remaining the same? Have you adapted the way you compensate people, not necessarily in terms of cash only, but work-life balance or other benefits? And if yes, if you have changed that, what do you believe has been proven the most effective? Cassie, please.
Sure. Yeah, I think we are seeing a lot of changes. We also were acquired during all of this as well. So we're balancing kind of two different things. I think, and it's like you said, it's more than just cash, but I know on the Glue side, like we have established a hybrid model for work from home. So we're able to, like, manage your discretion, like most things, decide if we want to be working from home, if we need to go in the office. You know, we have that flexibility because I think pre-pandemic, I was one of like 5 people that was fully remote. So it is really great to see that our company has embraced that we can have this hybrid model of choosing to work from home. Like Kay and Erica said, I think people realize the importance of the balance, especially for those who have to do a commute, saving those hours each day. We've also made sure that we're providing like more mental health awareness, like sessions, counseling, things like that, because obviously a lot of things are taking toll besides just our jobs right now. So I think there's been a huge emphasis on that. And then also too, making sure we still have like team building, where they're like remote events, just different things you can sign up for, like remote cooking classes, you know, anything like that, that you can still like see your team space, you know, wherever you are. We're putting a lot of emphasis and focus on still like trying to maintain that team building throughout it.
Excellent. Phil, do you have a different approach on this from what you're doing at Amazon?
It's a lot of the same things. A lot of, you know, as teams sort of are able to come back together, we are doing a lot of targeted on-site meetings and sessions, you know, week-long sessions, as sort of a way to start bringing people back into, you know, what will eventually be a hybrid model. Amazon allows the team leads, you know, the product leads to determine, you know, what the timeline is for that and what it's going to look like. So people are still sorting that out. But, you know, Amazon did, you know, pretty widely publicized increase to their salary cap. And that's an absolute, you know, reaction to the rising costs of talent, you know, that it's harder to retain talent, that there's more competition for talent. So that was very dramatic increase, and it's directly related to trying to retain talent and get the best talent in. And then we are, the other thing with Amazon is because we have offices all over the world, it's a little easier for us to have employees all over the world because they can be under a particular office and still be working remotely for a team on the West Coast or something like that. So we got a few kind of unique things that we do as this multinational corporation.
Thank you. I'm going to rebound on that, and because both of you have been mentioning the hybrid model being adopted throughout your studio. So I want to sort of open this question to all of the panelists and the two of you obviously as well. Do you foresee that as being a permanent move, or do you think it's going to slowly come back to what used to be the norm, like in office, or hybrid is going to be the new normal, or fully remote is becoming an option that will become permanent? I've been hearing a lot of different perspectives from different studios. Some studios have taken the approach of, no, the pandemic has demonstrated we've been operating very well in a remote setup, so we are going to just shut down our office or shrink it down by a tenth of the space it used to be, and everybody's going to move on a remote working from now on, while other studios have taken the opposite direction and saying, no, it hasn't been, creatively speaking, it's being damaging for the product we've been creating. We want to create interaction back at the office as much as we can, or we want more human interaction, face-to-face interaction. So we will enforce having our teams back in a physical presence. How is it for you guys? Well, how do you foresee that going?
If I may start, I think that for us and for many people, a hybrid work from home is permanent. The pandemic has really affected different people in different ways. And so we have part of our team who can't wait to get back into the office and have that human connection. And then part of our team have decided that, this Los Angeles mass population lifestyle isn't for them. And they've moved on to places where they're, more fulfilled, living a quieter lifestyle. So because everyone is different and that doesn't differentiate how important they are to the company, I feel that we need to be more flexible and to create a work-life balance by allowing people to do what makes them truly happy and what fulfills their personal life, so that they can put in a good effort in the office. I don't think we can ever completely get rid of the office, because especially for new hires and junior artists, it is difficult to never have a face-to-face interaction, to have to get on a Zoom call every time you need support. So we are seeing that the younger, newer, out of school artists are really craving that experience in the office. And for example, with our leads, the ones that are still in LA, we're alternating where they come in once a week, once a month to have that interaction, but getting to stay home and have their lives.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share what their plan is for their company?
Yeah, sure. For us, we still don't have any plans to go back to the office, and I think that, like I said, we need to consider what the employees want, and we'll also talk in this panel about retaining the talent. So making what they want is really important to keep them in the company. Our team is pretty adjusted to the dynamic of working remotely, but what I think it might come to a point, addressing this question of training very young artists or engineers. One solution that we've been doing is creating test projects, like small projects. So when they get into the company, they start doing this test project, and they're already immersed in a project that's kind of preparing them to work with the other teams and the bigger teams. So kind of making a framework for them to adjust in this reality of no physical meetings and no physical chatting and the, coffee break in the break room or something like that. So it's also important for the companies to prepare those people to getting the team and getting familiar with everyone in this reality.
Thank you. For you, Cassie, have you've been used to work from home and to work remotely at least since a long time, and do you think that will be applied to a larger scale at Glue now?
I believe so, yes. Like I said, I've been remote for 6 years now, 6-7 years. So I believe so. I think, like everyone else said, I think we realize the value of that work-life balance, especially in our industry. And we have been able to ship titles being fully remote. And I think it all depends on the team as well. Like my team, we support every Glue title. So we're used to working in different time zones, different hours. So for us, working from home is like ideal because we can kind of have more flexibility in our schedule and not be, stuck on a bus or something if we need to submit a game. I think for the creative teams, I think some of them are itching to get back in the office because, like you said, once they all get together, they can collaborate and feed off each other. But overall, I think the hybrid model will definitely be a permanent part of Glue. And I mean, we've talked about do we keep both floors of our offices? Do we just go to one floor? Like we want to keep our location, but there's just a lot of discussions happening now. Like actually, how much space do we really need? Do people really need permanent desks? Things like that. So I think there's still a lot to be discussed to see what it's going to look like in the future, but a hybrid model is definitely a permanent part of that. And I have seen more and more people, like you said, having the option of being fully remote and maybe moving elsewhere. And it's great to see companies kind of embrace that.
Thank you. A lot of the people we've been talking to are saying that over the last few years, couple of years essentially, it has become increasingly difficult to find talents and convince them to join our team. Have you had to adjust the way you approach recruitment altogether? Have you changed the way you're looking for talents? I'm guessing having the possibility to work remotely would potentially open a whole new pool of talent that you would not necessarily consider before. But how is the recruiting going right now? Kay, you want to take this one?
Sure. Recruiting has been very difficult. I won't lie about that. There seems to be quite a competition, especially in North America, for talent. And yes, work from home has opened up the possibility to extend our reach. However, there is still restraints with speed, even with cloud-based solutions and things that are kind of trying to catch up to this fast-paced need for better connectivity. We are still limited, and all of our clients are not quite ready yet to jump on the cloud. So there is a limit still to where geographically people can be. They just don't have to be in the office. So it has made it quite difficult for us to recruit. We've opened up the recruiting channels more broadly, and we've found that our best options right now have been referral based. So keeping our team super happy so they can refer their friends and people in their network. For example, with our team, we have gotten more bites from postings from our leads and artists than we have from our own postings. So we've really tapped into that. Also, we've started partnering with universities to bring in new talent because there's quite a saturation of existing talent.
Great, thank you. How is the situation in Brazil for you, Erica?
Well, we need to keep in mind that in Brazil, we always heard once in a while, someone that went to live abroad that is now working at some international company somewhere else. But before the pandemic, it was hard for the companies to consider remote work and to trust, especially for engineering. So it was kind of easy to get our talents here. But now everyone is already familiar with remote working. So there's a lot of hiring from international companies in Brazil, like in other countries as well, of course. And so it's even harder for us to keep those talents. Manifesto has always kind of been in our DNA to try to hire young professionals instead of very experienced ones, and we try to teach them, and involve the professional, and as they learn, they grow with the company. But now it's been like our priority, our number one thing. And we also get closer to the universities, like Kate was saying, and we made some, I'm not sure how to say in English, but it's like a capacitation program with the universities. So they kind of have an internship at Manifesto while they're studying game development in the university. And this program also, it's easier for us to, take a closer look at the students and invite the best students to join the company. So it's good for the university because they have a practical training. So they have this vision of the market in the classes, in the program, but also good for us because we can get closer to the students and invite the brightest ones to join the studio. So that's how we're trying to attract talents now.
Thank you. When you write Amazon on a job description, does it make things easier for you, Phil, to hire talents?
That's an interesting question. That I don't know. Probably in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I mean, Amazon doesn't have the reputation necessarily of throwing out crazy salary, but I'll agree with Kay. Our biggest success rates are through referrals instead of just going out there, especially at the higher level and for the higher, the leads and things like that. And then we see that there's sort of less applications coming in. We're seeing a little bit of sort of a dearth of talent for young people, and maybe it's just because there's more competition, but we're just not seeing as many applications as we used to, which is a little bit interesting. And I don't know if it's because there's been a bunch of movement and people are settled into what they've taken, but we're more successful when we sort of go out there and contact people through, and be fairly, proactive in reaching out and not just waiting for things to come in. And I find that interesting, but not exactly sure why that is. It doesn't even seem like there's quite as many people coming out. Maybe they're getting out of the educational systems, maybe they're getting hired up before they go out into the marketplace. But we're seeing less of that.
I see. Thanks, Phil. So one of the main reasons that has been proposed as of the reason of people quitting their job was not so much about the money itself, but it was a lot of people were taking this occasion to escape toxic environment, bad company culture, bad teams relationship, to have a better work environment altogether. But with the meanwhile, the hybrid model or the full remote model has created a lot of difficulties for companies to even maintain a company culture altogether. So how do you do with your teams? How do you maintain a healthy and engaging company culture when you are not able to see people, to meet people, when you are not even sometimes working in the same city or the same country? Cassie, who has loads of experience in managing teams remotely, what's your secret sauce into keeping people happy and connected together?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is communication and understanding, especially now, like things happen beyond our control, and understanding that you may not have as much involvement from your team as you did before. And that's okay, as long as, you know, you guys are still producing good work and you're communicating clearly. You don't need to have a stand up every single morning at 10 a.m., you know, like you did in the studio. For our teams ourselves, like we do once a week, and then I have other ones that are bi-weekly. We have the flexibility to choose, you know, kind of what makes it much more beneficial to the team on how often we meet, because we all know what Zoom fatigue is, and I think that plays a role in that. So I think it's just like understanding your team's needs, especially the working moms that have to like have kids at home, you know, teaching them and all of that kind of stuff. Like having that kind of flexibility, I think is huge. So I think it's more seeing your employee as a person rather just your coworker, and adding different of like things that you can be flexible with, like meeting times and deadlines and things like that as a whole is really important. And then I said, like having those team building things, like even though you can't be in person, like, you know, have like a cocktail mixing class like once a month, or an art class, or just something people can still sign up for and, you know, feel like they're still involved. And just clearly communicating, where that's like Slack every day, like just checking in, seeing how people are doing, things like that. So I would say, yeah, definitely like face to face with the Zoom as needed, you know, no, don't get Zoom fatigue, you know, using like other forms of communication like Slack or email instead of having a meeting, and, you know, just being flexible with everyone's lives outside of work. I think that can help retention and keep people happy.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Cassie. Erica, you mentioned you were working a lot with universities and schools, so you're supposedly getting a lot of junior talents at Manifesto. So how do you make them feel part of a company when you know the company itself is sort of all over the place?
Yeah, it's challenging, and I must say that our HR department is one of the departments that got more mature during the pandemic. There was a lot of things that were done, but not in a very processual way. So now we have a lot of documentation and processes and steps that we need to follow. So first thing is that we prefer to hire someone that's younger and less experienced, but that we believe fits our culture, instead of hiring someone more experienced, but that we're not sure it would fit our culture. So that's one thing. And then things like Cassie said, like we try to incentivize using cameras during meetings. We hired a platform, an online platform that allows people to share how they're feeling today. And sometimes the HR person gets direct conversations with the person to talk about personal stuff, like not related to work, but that might be influencing their performance. And then we also try to be very flexible about if they have something to work out at home and they need time. We'd be more flexible also with the daily meetings and etc. And like I was mentioning before, like the onboarding process, we also worked a lot on this, and we have activities that incentivize the new ones to interact with the vet ones. Like there are some onboarding steps that ask you to talk to someone you haven't talked yet, ask how they joined the company, how long, like try to be curious about your coworkers. So that's another thing among many others we're trying to do. But yeah, like the ultimate goal is make everyone know each other, even if they haven't met in person. And because that way we'll be more sensitive and more empathic with our coworkers, right?
Thank you. So according to the excellent XDS Inside report that everybody has seen and the great presentation from Ryan right before that, 43% of participants have stated that they have not been benefiting from a greater talent pool to hire from, while 42% say they don't know, and only 15% say it has a positive impact on recruitment. Meanwhile, people are still leaving. A lot of people are leaving. So if they're leaving from one place, they must be going to another place, but yet nobody seems to be benefiting from that. So where do you think these people go, Phil?
Oh, that's funny. I think that I mean, I think it's interesting that we have seen some of, especially at the kind of lead in leadership level, some sort of pauses in work where people are either, they may be going to take an opportunity to go to a startup, they may be taking an opportunity to take a little sabbatical. So I think there is some of that. I think those intentions are still to be in game development. But people, I think there's a fair amount of freelancing going on as well, where they're not necessarily going to another company and they're opening themselves up to doing consulting or freelancing or that kind of thing. And then I do think there's a little bit of more acceptance for people to go work for service providers instead of developer publishers. So we might be seeing a little bit of a talent drain to go, we see it for things like tech art where it's getting harder. It's always been hard to hire tech artists, but it's getting harder. And I'm seeing more tech art capabilities at the vendors. So there just might be that shift where it's not necessarily competition with the other devs and publishers, but a little bit of competition with the service providers as well. Because maybe they're a little more open to being flexible with either schedule or location.
Thanks. Kay, you were mentioning the great reshuffle. So that's probably connected to that. So can you share a little bit more about your insight on this, please?
Yes, absolutely. I feel that maybe companies are not seeing the aggregate increase because as people are joining certain companies, others are leaving. There is a reshuffling happening. For us, something that we offer that is important to our artists is being able to work on, for example, 3 AAA titles a year versus working on the same one for 2 years or 3 years. So the diversity in projects has been something that we've been using to gain artists our way. However, we are seeing some artists leave because, for example, they always wanted to work on specific game company. Previously, it was harder to get in, and now it's easier because those companies are seeing opportunities open up. So I am seeing most of our team who is leaving go to like the game company of their dreams that was not accessible to them before because of location or because it's currently easier to get a position there. And then we're seeing artists who come to us from said game company because they're either tired of working on the same game for 2 years or want a little bit of a freer, more freelance but organized company culture.
Great, thank you very much. Before we start taking some Q&A question, I'd like to go back a little bit on making sure people stay so that we don't have to recruit more people. So retaining talent is step 1 in this process. And one of the reasons that has been, another reason that has been given is I don't get to do what I like. I've become unhappy in my job, and with the remote working, some people have felt more difficult to maintain the connection between employees and their management, whether that being their direct manager or, more importantly, the senior leadership of what used to be a studio, which is completely dematerialized. So how do you keep the connection between the different layer of the organization to make sure that problems are heard and solved how do you make it so that the communication doesn't break? I'm going to open it to anyone who wants to tackle this one.
I think on our side, what we're seeing is that we're having a lot more like all hands meetings from different people in the company, especially like, you know, like the vice presidents or senior vice presidents, et cetera, and that they're trying to be more open about what's going on. I think that's part of it is, I think as like we were a small studio, and then all of a sudden we became part of a very, very large company. So we kind of got lost in the weeds a little bit, but I'm seeing more effort on senior level people having all hands, and then like opening it up, like same thing, like submitting questions and things like that, and just being honest about things, like just answering questions, not avoiding questions, even if they're hard. So I think that's been a positive that we're seeing, is that like the senior level is trying to make more of an effort to reach down to everyone else on the dev teams.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're seeing that as well, like a lot more all hands, different types of presentations, leadership presentations, open office hours and things for people to be able to ask questions. It's also been interesting to see the production value go up. For us, there's we've dedicated people to like, hey, we need to make these things a little more entertaining and engaging for the team members, so that, you know, maybe that does give them a little better sort of team culture or team, something they can emotionally kind of grab onto, why they're part of this team. So the production value of those things has actually skyrocketed, and now they're sort of must see for a lot of people in our org.
I can chime in to say that definitely listening more to the talent. We started doing something called a dream projects list. And like Cassie, we were a very small team, very kind of family-like small team, and we grew quite a bit and also joined a very, very large company with teams all over the world. So really keeping a balance with keeping my team connected to the other teams, but not burning them out with Zoom meetings all the time, and really focusing on their work-life balance and reducing OT by starting to work with some of our sister studios now to share the workload, so that they feel that they're being supported by the other studios and by our company, and also that they have an input. And from 2020, when we joined Virtuous, to now, we've actually gone and won some of these dream list projects that our team wanted to work on. So they're seeing in real life their voices be heard. And I think that's important.
That's awesome. That's great. Great story. Thank you. Erica, anything to add?
Yeah, I think that obviously communication, it might be easier for us because we are the smallest company between my colleagues here. But we try to focus on the, well, we try to focus on the person's interest versus the company's interest. We need to make this very clear. So I believe that before the pandemic, we already did like meetings with the whole company to explain the strategy, but it was like every 3 months. And now it's like twice a month. So every 15 days, we have a meeting with everyone online. Everyone is welcome to join. And we keep saying to the people what we're doing, where we're going, what we'd like to do. And of course, the meetings get shorter because we're always talking about this. So it's not like a 2-hour meeting every 15 days. So, and this way, we're always telling our employees where we're going, what we're doing, what we'd like to do. And they can always keep comparing these to their wishes. Do I want to work with this kind of projects? Do I want to keep working in this direction that the company is going? So that saves us a lot of time in terms of people leaving because they didn't know that they could change projects, or because they didn't know they would end up working in this kind of platform or things like that. and also the platform that I mentioned before that we're using, it's gamified, so you get little coins every time you write a feedback for your coworker. So it's very well structured for us and easy for us now to share feedbacks, to receive feedbacks as well, and to structure a personal development plan within the company, and like where I'd like to be in the next 1, 2, 3 years.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Chris, do you wanna start taking some questions from our wonderful audience, please?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for the discussion, guys. There's some good questions rolling in from the group. So one of our attendees, Guillaume, asks a question around morale and attrition. So he says, for us internally, we see a lot of team members, especially more senior team members, shuffling projects as opposed to leaving altogether. Do you feel companies will be more open to listen to satisfy the needs before losing team members? And I'll just open that up to the group.
A very big yes. And that's our dream list project. Yes, we are being much more open and receptive when a project is maybe not a good fit for an artist, and that's allowing them to stay with us versus move on.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if you're a talented artist, I don't want you to leave the company because you don't like the project. If we have other project that we can reallocate you, that's perfect. And we keep a talented artist in the team.
Yeah, same here. We're very open to that, but we also emphasize that there needs to be a plan if that happens, so you don't leave the previous team, high and dry. So there's a lot of work that we put into it if you want to move, which I think benefits both teams.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks, Guillaume, for the question. So Mr. Eric Levy asks, with attrition hitting teams hard, I was wondering if the panelists could talk about about any efforts they've made in converting or growing new talent in outsourcing management from the art or engineering teams. So converting, for example, engineers or artists to become outsourcing managers. Perhaps providing new career opportunities for these folks.
Yeah, we haven't done that at Glue. It's smaller, but I think that's very good and interesting.
Phil, any perspectives on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly getting more and more people involved, mostly on the production side in outsourcing efforts. Starting small with something sort of quantifiable to get their feet wet and getting them more involved. Usually, when we do that, people are responsible for sort of a component or a feature or some part of the game, and they're managing the internal team and the external partners. And then we're supporting them on the best practices and processes that they can use for that. And then we're also putting in place, trying to put in place some more training and programs where we can up-level our outsourced artists and turn them into managers so that they become able to take on whole products as outsourced managers for whole products instead of just being stuck on or being an outsourced manager underneath a team lead. Because we definitely need to sort of add bench depth and scale and level up our internal people so that as we add games and products to our portfolio.
I will say we're doing this in a sense of creating a kind of an academy. And so a lot of our leads are turning into professors, more so than outsourced managers. And we are doing this both with teams that are outside of Virtuous, because we're quite busy, and also ramping up new teams within some of the other Virtuous studios that already have the infrastructure to work well with us, and training them over the next year to be able to grow our fleet basically and grow our capacity.
Okay, thanks guys. Some additional questions coming in. So Gabriella asks, how do you deal with new hires or potentially new hires that want to be completely remote when your company is embracing the new hybrid model?
We're still fully remote, so I'm gonna let my colleagues share their thoughts.
We let them be remote. We let them be remote with a trial period. We give them all the tools they need to be successful. We have created a really robust, Confluence page for new hires, anything from onboarding to personal things to anything work related. We have endless amounts of videos that we've created over the past 2 years for training on every single project specifically. It takes about a week ramp versus a day if you're in-house, but we find that it's worth it because we don't think that we're going to escape this location independence.
Do you ship hardware and how's that to every individual location for the new hires that could not bring their gears from the office because they were never at the office before?
So we have hardware in the office. Our office has become like a glorified tech closet with lots and lots of fans. We usually set them up with the hardware required to work on the project in-house, and then we'll get them hardware at home to be able to remote in. Currently, that's been our most successful model. This is why we are not completely location independent. It's still very difficult to work with teams from very far away unless they have their own hub there that they're connecting into. So for example, with our sister studios, it's fine because the artists working from home are close to their office and we can directly sync into the office. But working with individual freelancers from around the world that aren't close enough for us to really fully integrate with them with quick turnarounds has been difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. So this next question is from Ryan, who just happens to be the author of the recent Industry Insights report on external development. So I think I know where this question comes from. And it's for Kay and Erica and Guillaume, representing the service providers. So according to our report, service providers want to set up new offices in new parts of the world. So what do you look for in terms of incentives for those locations? Is it because you might have larger remote teams in that area? Is it because those areas might be offering better tax incentives? What are the incentives to move to particular locations or open new offices in particular
I think
locations?
at this point for us to open any new office outside of our current virtuous offices would be to take advantage of a less saturated talent pool. I think the tax incentive areas are fully saturated, and we're quite large and quite represented in many regions. So at this point, we're looking for ways to grow our capacity, and that usually means looking for untapped talent pools.
Yeah, 100%. If we were, Glass Egg is most of you know, we are based in Vietnam and exclusively in Vietnam, and we are independent as well. So the number 2 factors that would make us make a move to open a new location would be number 1, talent pool, number 2, proximity to clients. So tax incentive I think would be marginal in terms of if you look at the bigger picture, you want to be closer to the people, whether them being employees or clients.
Yeah, I was going to highlight the second point Guillaume told us, proximity with the clients. I think it's always been easier to sell when we get closer to clients, when we meet people in person. Like we're talking a lot about working remotely is one thing, that business, like selling, it makes a big difference when we meet people in person. That's why we all love XDS, because it's a small conference. We get really close to the buyers. And so I think the number 1 reason would be proximity to clients, because there's still people that want to visit your office to at least once before they start the project, and being in a country like Brazil for us, for example, or Vietnam, it's a very long trip, and sometimes they would prefer a closer provider, a closer service provider because of that.
Okay, thanks very much, guys. That's all the questions in the Q&A, Guillaume.
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions for your panelists, Guillaume, or did you want to wrap things up?
I think we covered everything we had to cover. So unless the audience has any follow-up questions, I think we can wrap this up.
Okay, any final thoughts or questions from the panelists? Okay,
Thanks for the opportunity, for the
Yeah.
invitation, and it was a pleasure to
Thank
share
you very
with you
much.
guys.
Yes,
good stuff.
it was great to be here with everyone.
Thank you so much, and fingers crossed we'll see you guys in Vancouver in September.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
you bet.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good one.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.